Have you ever stepped into an elevator, only to instinctively step back out when a stranger rushes in at the last second? Or found yourself walking toward a crowded place to avoid someone whose gaze lingered just a moment too long? Do you know that these impulses aren't glitches in your system, but your most sophisticated survival mechanism at work? Gavin de Becker, one of the world's leading experts on violent behavior, spent decades studying how victims could have predicted their attacks. In his book The Gift of Fear, he proves that true fear isn't irrational, it's your brain recognizing danger patterns before your conscious mind catches up. Yet every day, we override these signals to avoid appearing rude or paranoid. Today we'll explore why that instinct is more accurate than you realize, how to interpret its warnings, and why listening could mean the difference between safety and catastrophe. Fear is not some primitive relic we've outgrown. It is a highly tuned survival algorithm, processing thousands of subtle cues in milliseconds. When you walk into a room and immediately feel uneasy, your subconscious has already noticed the tense posture of someone nearby, or the way their eyes tracked your movement. De Becker shares a chilling case where a woman felt compelled to take the stairs instead of an elevator with a seemingly normal man. Later, that man was arrested for assaulting someone in that very elevator. When asked why she avoided him, she couldn't explain it logically, she just knew. This is what de Becker calls pre-incident indicators, those barely perceptible signs that something is wrong before anything overt happens. This system is so precise that even small children and animals display fear responses to genuinely dangerous people, long before any overt threat occurs. The problem is not that our fear fails us, the problem is we fail our fear. We dismiss it as overreacting, anxiety, or imagination. But here's the truth your brain already knows. Genuine fear never speaks in maybes. It says leave now, and the more you ignore it, the quieter it gets. De Becker identified what he calls the 12 never rules, behaviors we swear we'd never ignore, yet violate constantly. These aren't hypothetical warnings. They're distilled from thousands of survivor interviews where victims recalled ignoring these exact instincts. Rule 1. Never dismiss a gut feeling that says, something's wrong here. Rule 2. Never ignore the thought, why is this person being so nice to me? Rule 3. Never override hesitation about being alone with someone new. Rule 4. Never stay in a situation after your intuition says, leave now. Rule 5. Never justify suspicious behavior with, but they seem normal. Rule 6. Never let someone rush you into decisions or commitments. Rule 7. Never ignore signs that someone is testing your boundaries. Rule 8. Never dismiss unusual behavior as just their personality. Rule 9. Never assume you're overreacting to persistent unease. Rule 10. Never prioritize politeness over your personal safety. Rule 11. Never ignore the voice asking, what are the odds this is a coincidence? Rule 12. Never violate your own standards to accommodate someone else's. De Becker found that predators specifically look for people who break these rules. They rely on our tendency to rationalize discomfort. That chill down your spine when someone stands too close. That's not anxiety. That's your personal security system detecting a potential intruder. Every time you silence it to be nice, you disable your best defense. Remember, predators do not take your politeness as kindness, they take it as permission. The moment you prioritize a stranger's comfort over your own safety, you hand them power. Now let's examine the 3 most common tactics predators use to exploit these openings. De Becker's research reveals that predators, whether violent or manipulative, follow predictable scripts. The first is forced teaming, when someone creates false intimacy by saying we're in this together despite barely knowing you. This bypasses normal boundaries by manufacturing shared stakes that don't exist. The book recounts how serial killer Ted Bundy used this tactic, asking victims to help him carry items to his car. By getting them to agree to a small request first, he bypassed their natural caution. The second is loan sharking, offering unsolicited favors to create obligation. That coworker who constantly brings you coffee then asks for unreasonable deadlines is not being generous, they are building invisible debt. The third is typecasting, where someone labels you negatively so you work to disprove it. You're too smart to believe that is not a compliment. It is a challenge to your judgment. De Becker shares how con artists use this to make victims prove they're not the kind of person who would distrust someone helping them. Women's intuition, often dismissed as mystical, is simply the result of noticing these micro-violations of social contracts. It is not magic, it is observation, and it is time we stopped apologizing for it. We have been conditioned to believe that trusting our fear is irrational. That walking away from a suspicious situation is paranoid. That refusing to engage with a pushy stranger is rude. But consider this. Every single safety measure in existence, from seatbelts to fire alarms, exists to mitigate risks that are statistically rare. De Becker's core finding from decades of work is this. In virtually every single violent encounter, victims experienced clear warning signs they later admitted ignoring. One woman reported noticing her attacker had been following her through a store, but didn't want to cause a scene by confronting him. This social conditioning to be polite literally puts us in danger. You don't debate whether a smoke alarm is accurate before evacuating. You don't justify wearing a seatbelt only on days you expect a crash. Yet when it comes to human behavior, we demand certainty before acting. De Becker's rule is simple. It is better to offend a stranger than end up a victim, because while false alarms are embarrassing, real ones are lethal. The first step is recognizing that fear is not your enemy, it is your body's most loyal protector. Next time you feel that twinge of unease, pause. Ask yourself what triggered it. Was it how they stood too close? How they ignored your first no? Those details matter. De Becker suggests a powerful exercise. Review past situations where you felt uneasy but ignored it. What signs did you miss? One reader realized her date's charming behavior was actually testing her boundaries. He kept accidentally touching her, then apologizing to see how she'd react. Practice responding without explanation. You do not owe strangers your time, your attention, or your politeness. A simple "I have to go" is enough. If they protest, that is your confirmation the fear was valid. And if you're thinking, "But what if I'm wrong?" remember this. Your fear has been evolving for millions of years to keep you alive. Society's rules about politeness? Those are barely a few centuries old. Our ancestors did not survive by being polite to growling bushes. They survived because they listened to the instincts we now dismiss. Reclaiming that wisdom does not make you paranoid, it makes you powerful. De Becker leaves us with this truth. You have a guardian angel, and it speaks to you through your intuition. The woman who suddenly changes her running route, the man who cancels a date because something felt off, these aren't overreactions. They're examples of our innate protective system working perfectly. So the next time your gut says leave, leave. When it says don't trust them, don't. And if this video helped you realize how often you've ignored those warnings, consider liking or sharing it, because the greatest gift we can give each other is not just safety, but the permission to trust ourselves. The world is not as dangerous as we fear, but it is more dangerous than we pretend. And your intuition? It already knows the difference. Thank you for watching.